Hey everyone, I'm Thomas Scholes. My website is artofscholes.com. Feel free to check it out for more of my work, articles, PSDs, other workshops, lots of good stuff. There were a few things from the workshop that were difficult to describe in words and much easier just to show you. So let's jump right into that. First up is a shortcut from the article, Control-Alt-Shift-D. This will compress everything to one layer and let you move it around. This is great for global changes, edits, and sometimes layers just get a little messy. It's also great for Liquify, which is a tool I use to make a lot of corrections, whether it's perspective or shape. There's also a few tools in Photoshop, like Dodge or Burn, that do need everything to be flat. So it comes in handy for that. Here I'm using color balance as well. Sometimes it's handy to just have it all on a layer. It's also a tool that I use all the time to flip my canvas, check my shapes, and then flip it back, which can be a bit quicker than flipping everything. Next up is another shortcut from the article, Control-Alt-Shift-N. This will make a new layer without this dialog that we've all probably seen 1,000 times. And there are some good tools on it, clipping mask. Sometimes I'll go to mode because it's a little bit quicker. But for the most part, this kind of gets in the way, and I know it's kind of nitpicky, but it's great to remove any distractions from your workflow. That way you can sort of stay in the zone for as long as possible. It is, however, a bit of an awkward key command, so it's a great opportunity for me to show you actions as well. So here's Window, Actions, or I have it up here. And I'm going to create a new action, give it a name, New Layer, No Dialog. Going to give it a function, that way we can just hit it with a key, or we can program it onto our tablet or even our Wacom pen. Let's click record, use our shortcut Control-Alt-Shift-N, and hit stop. Give it a test. There we go. Actions are great and should definitely become part of your workflow. They can save you so much time. Next up, we have lighten and darken layers. Definitely something that's great to have a visual for. Duplicating this, I'm going to flip it. That way when I change layer modes here, you'll be able to tell the difference right away. So what lighten does is it actually replaces the pixels beneath it with anything that's lighter from what's above it. And darkens the exact opposite. Multiply, however, is a combination of the two. It's one pixel actually multiplied with the pixel beneath it. It's very digital. It's not very nice to look at. Here's screen, the opposite of multiply. Again, it's a combination. Not really great to look at. A lot of mess, a lot of cleanup. Not that useful for our purposes. Once again, to demonstrate, here's lighten. It's a very clean mix. Very useful. Let's see now if I can do a sketch really quick using lighten and darken layers. We've already used this image in the tutorial, but I think I can probably squeeze something else extra out of it. I was curious about this structure, and I wouldn't mind resolving it a little bit better. So let's remix it, see what happens. It's nice to use this as sort of a ground plane, stretch it out. Borrowing the palette, borrowing some of the shapes. We can erase what doesn't work and keep what does. Nothing too fancy yet, but hopefully you get the idea. I'm going to use some clone stamp here to paint out what's not working. This is another tool that hopefully you're experimenting with. We didn't really talk about it in the workshop, but get some experience with it. You're going to love it. Okay, the scene's starting to take form. Not radically different once again, but just a sketch, just another one. To be honest, a lot of paintings start out with humble origins and become something pretty special. So it's best to just relax and not discriminate. Okay, let's still this character, give this sketch a little bit of personality. It's also kind of nice, since this character was in the last image, to put her in a new one, and it just sort of naturally tells a story, a narrative, which is kind of fun even for me. Okay, next up, let's talk a little bit about compositional weight. This is something that I touched upon in the article and really wanted to give a visual for. If you could, please, let's close our eyes and open them, and let's see where our eyes went in the canvas. What had the most contrast? What's really grabbing your attention right now? Try it a few more times, see where your eye just naturally gravitates to. If I had to guess, I'd say most of us are focused right about here. I might be wrong. Some of you might be on either of the waterfalls. Maybe there's a few random other things, but try it again and really ask yourself where your eye's going. For me, it's probably right here. We've got some of our lightest lights and some of our darkest darks, so we've got quite a bit of contrast, and that's definitely what controls the eye. Moving on, let's just focus on the character. I'd like you to look and see that, there is a composition here. The focal point should be obvious, but we have space that's larger to the left, space that's smaller to the right. Look what happens as I move it around and how the composition changes with nothing else on there. To see how important that character is. Let's turn off that background, get the character there, and hopefully you can see that the same thing's happening. There might be more actors on the stage because the main focal point is the person. Everything about it really controls the composition. Whether he's bigger, whether he's smaller, whether he's to the left, whether he's to the right. It's great to have a workflow like this where you can just play around and get a feel for it. Ask yourself, do I like it this way? Do I like it that way? Even flipping the character can really drastically change the feel of the composition. There's definitely a bias we have going from left to right in an image that you should definitely read up on. Characters in a painting are very interesting because they take so much of the contrast away from everything else. We have a psychological predisposition towards faces, especially. So even though there was other focal points in this image, the character takes over almost immediately. But it's good to have multiple points of interest in your composition as long as you maintain a hierarchy of importance. Think of it as sort of the main character to your movie, and then the supporting cast, and even extras. Like you want to bounce around a little bit between these points of interest. Lastly, I'd like to talk about some of the great editing tools in Photoshop. Let's remember it's called Photoshop and not PaintShop, and as such, there are so many great tools that photographers take advantage of that we can as well. These are great tools to help you make better images, but more importantly, help you learn as quickly as possible. First up, let's talk about color balance. This is the one that I probably use the most. Here I'm using an adjustment layer, so it's non-destructive. You can move it around to different documents and it's great. You'll want to try the setting Preserve Luminosity both off and on. You'll get radically different results. It can get a little bit messy, so definitely be careful, but just have fun with it. Move something left, move it right. Ask yourself, do I like this? Do I like that? You don't have to be an expert to have taste, and taste is a skill that you're going to have to exercise just like any other, and you'll get better and better as you do it. Make sure you're using this drop down for shadows, midtones, and highlights so you can get that full range of editing capability. You can already see it's extremely powerful. You can change night into day. You can get totally different color palettes and different moods from that. Definitely explore it. Next up is Selective Color, another great tool. I usually use it in whites, midtones, and blacks, a lot like Color Balance with a little bit different of a control. Same thing, move it left and right, ask yourself what you like better, if it's an improvement or not, and just get a feel for it. This image's color palette is already kind of locked in, so we're not getting quite as drastic as an effect as I would like. So hopefully you'll try it on your own paintings. It's great in the sketch phase especially to help you lock in the right mood. Moving on, another one of my favorite tools is curves. You might be familiar with editing the levels here. It's really powerful, and as such, it can quickly get out of control. But I'd encourage you to explore the tool a little bit more, and you'll see in this drop-down box you can actually split it into the different channels, red, green, and blue, and you can have an extreme amount of control over your colors. Give it a shot, push and pull, see what you like. It's such a great tool. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed the article. I hope this video has been of use. Definitely look me up, artofskulls.com. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any questions. Take care.